Yes. Welcome to the Dish Pig, where we go on a journey of discovery in the food and booze world. I'm your host, Nick Sherry. We are back with a very special episode. I recently travelled to the birthplace of the likes of Frank Lloyd Wright, Ernest Hemingway, Gloria Swanson, Al Capone, Walt Disney, Raquel Welch. It's where Ferris took his day off. It's the Windy City. Yes, we are talking about Chicago. And I caught up with a local legend, Chef Jonathan Zaragoza, who at the ripe age of 12 started learning the craft of Birria tacos, culminating with the opening of their family restaurant, which is now an institution in Chicago, Birreria Zaragoza. And along the way, Jonathan has worked at various Michelin-starred establishments, which has taken him throughout Mexico, London, Paris, Dubai, and all over the US. And we did take a deep dive into the Birria taco and what goes into making them. So I would highly recommend checking out Season 3 of Taco Chronicles Cross the Border, which is on Netflix. You'll see Jonathan and his father Juan featured in the Chicago episode, and you get to see firsthand what goes into making this delicious dish. Now, let's get into it. All right, Jonathan.
What's up?
I made it. I've
fresh off the plane.
Fresh off the plane from Chicago. Come all the way here just to speak to you. It's an honor. It's an honor. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
And I think it's a good way to be introduced to the city of Chicago. I mean, I have been to Chicago a few times. A lot of it I don't remember because it's usually hanging out with my brother. But you're Chicago born and bred.
Correct.
Quick question though, which I always start with our guests is, what was the last thing you cooked to yourself?
Last thing I cooked for myself was this morning. I cooked my girlfriend. She was running out the door, so I made her quick. It's called Toad in the Hole.
Toad in the Hole.
You know what that is? It
I
sounds
know.
kind of dirty.
I know what Frog in the Pond is.
What's that?
That's like well, in Australia it was Frog in a Pond, which is like a chocolate frog, like a piece of candy, piece of chocolate, submerged in a bowl of jelly.
What?
So you make your jelly, wait for that to get to a certain temperature, so it's still liquid, and then you put the chocolate frog in there, and then let it set. The rest, in the fridge, let it set, and then it's a frog in a pond. Then you just eat the jelly and then eat the chocolate at the end.
Okay, I didn't make that. That sounds great. That's crazy.
But you said toad in a hole.
Toad in a hole. So it's basically you take a piece of bread, punch out the middle, and then you fry an egg inside of it and flip it. So you get like a custardy egg and crispy bread.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so I made that today.
Is that? I mean, that's pretty good for like on the run.
It's quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just as long as it takes you to cook an over easy egg, that's how quick it's done.
Toad in a hole. I haven't tried it.
Egg in a nest is another way.
How's that different from the toad in the hole?
It's the same. It goes by both names.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So just different parts of the country or something where it originated.
Yeah, sure. I think maybe, but if I was egg in a nest or toad in the hole, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Egg in the nest has like a more kind of like, I don't know, like a softer ring to it in a way. It's a bit more sweet.
Toad in the hole is like, it sounds a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But intriguing.
Absolutely.
And like you said, a little dirty as well. Like
it does sound dirty. It really does. Yeah. When I offered it to her, she was like, I don't know, maybe not today. And I was like, no, I'm making you breakfast. She's like, oh, okay. Got it.
It's like, it's a toad in the hole kind of day. Well, I think, like I said, you're born and bred in Chicago, from the Southside of Chicago, right?
Yep.
And you're now a very well-known chef here around these parts of Chicago. But take us back to your time as a young kid, and when you first kind of have those food memories from back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, like growing up, both my parents are born in Mexico. So
which part?
Jalisco, both of them.
Okay.
So my dad's from La Barca, my mom's from Arandas. So my mom's from Tequila Country, and my dad is from city bordering the state of Michoacan.
Yeah.
Very famous for its food culture. So I had the presence of like good food and good beverage around me my whole life. But yeah, growing up, my mom used to cook for us every day, and she worked like a 9-to-5 office job, but she always made it a priority to get dinner on the table somehow. And on weekends, you know, I remember Sunday morning breakfast always being kind of something that I looked forward to because, or just weekends in general, that meant she was cooking more things throughout the day. She is a great cook. She's still around, thankfully. But yeah, it was just, I had a great like upbringing with food.
Yeah. I mean, being the son of immigrant parents, because I mean, my wife's her parents come from India, and you know she's got very fond memories of, you know, eating that very authentic Indian food, you know, Northern Indian food specifically at home, and you know, like it's the best you're ever going to get. Like, you know, there's no point in kind of eating out too much because it's never going to be the same as, you know, what your family cooks. Was there ever a time though growing up where you were kind of exposed to like the more Western Americanized food, and the parents were like, no, we're staying away from that. It's purely just sticking to like, you know, our heritage, our food. Was it, you know, was there anything like you did, that you didn't like about, you know, like your food growing up?
Yeah, I think like the food, the relationship with food in our household is I would say it's more adventurous and open. You know, we used to go out for Chinese food or takeout or takeaway.
Yeah.
I think it was like once every 2 weeks, maybe. It was 6 of us, so not all the time.
Yeah.
And then we would go to like a mariscos place, which is Mexican seafood that was nearby, like on a special occasion. And these are the memories I used to have of like the first time I ever ordered my own meal, as like when I was old enough to remember, like, okay, this is my own plate, you know. You know, parents share off their plate, was at a mariscos place, and I was like, I ordered camarones al mojo de ajo, which is basically prawns that are cooked in like garlic, butter, and some chili.
Yeah,
my mouth's watering, and I just ate lunch too, so that's how you know I like food a lot. So yeah, these are the memories I had, and my parents were always just like, food was very important in our house for sure.
Yeah. Then what was school at a young age like for you? I mean, like,
hated it?
I was going to say, so did you know from a young age that you wanted to become a chef or get into the restaurant scene, or was it, you know, what were kind of the options that you're looking at or considering? Yeah,
so I grew up my dad played baseball growing up, so we were a baseball family.
Okay, yeah.
And that was my first obsession, the sport. I couldn't get enough of it, so anytime I had my baseball in my hand. I was running around playing catch, you know. They'd lock the door and like kick us out pretty much, and we'd be on the streets with our friends like throwing the ball around. So I played baseball until I was like 20, maybe 22.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was cooking at that point anyway, but it was more just kind of a hobby at that point. But I went to a very competitive high school, you know, won state for baseball and stuff. And I thought in my head I was going to be a baseball player. I had these illusions of grandeur that didn't pan out.
Yeah.
So cooking was option B.
What level did your dad get to in the baseball world?
He played here at UIC, which is Division I.
Okay.
I think he played a season of pro ball in Mexico.
Got it.
Just like a season. Mm-hmm.
So you kind of knew that. I guess, you know, I keep saying, like, you know, getting one of those regular jobs in the world was just not really on the cards for you. Like, it just wasn't an interest.
I tried it. I tried to do, like, before I got into cooking. In high school, I was like a janitor. Like,
hang on, you were a janitor in high school?
Yeah, pretty much. One of my baseball teammates, his father owned like a maintenance company.
Okay,
and as a summer job, you know, we would get odds and ends. So
got it. I thought you were a janitor in your own high school.
That would have been. I would have ridiculed for that probably, just like in between periods, like sweeping the floors. But no, it was my summer job. So
got it. Okay.
You know, I knew I wanted to earn my own money.
Yeah.
And it was just a easy thing because my teammate, pitcher, I was a catcher. His dad's like, you know, I have some work if you need it, and that was like my first job. Really, was being dirty jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, do you remember the point where you were like, all right, you know, I've got this rich history of food in the family, mm-hmm. and what was that kind of turning point where you knew that you were going to pursue that as, your career?
Yeah, so like backing up, when I was 12, my dad was obsessed with this recipe of birria, the oven roasted goat that we serve at my family's restaurant.
Yeah.
So I was 12, and he would take trips between La Barca, his hometown, and Chicago, and he to learn with this maestro, or like master birriero, named Miguel Segura, and he would make it out here, my dad, and take it out there for Miguel to taste it and stuff. And this is after like months of filming and researching with him and spending time with him in Mexico. And when he came back the final time, we had built an oven. And I say we, but I was just like about, when you're a kid, hold the flashlight, or, go get this, you're a gopher. So it was my dad, his father, my grandfather, and myself built an oven in our backyard when I was 12, and we would do it just every weekend. So Friday we'd fire up the oven for the overnight cook, Friday night into Saturday, and then Saturday morning we would have service, or whoever showed up to our house and like wanted to eat there or take it to go and stuff. So that was at 12. And then when I finally had the aha moment, like, oh shit, like I might be doing this for a while. The restaurant had already been opened in October of 2007. I was 18 at that point.
Got it.
And I quit baseball, stayed in school, and then transferred from business to culinary, and then it ended up dropping out. So I dropped out from regular college first, went to culinary school at the same school, and then dropped out. I just couldn't do it. School wasn't for me at that point.
So backing up to so this specific dish, excuse my, like, Australians have, we're very talented in completely murdering pronunciations of other language.
Consonants.
It's just, so, I mean, I'm going to throw my stepmom under the bus here now, because she loves to say chorizo. Like, she's a big, like, oh, chorizo. And like, it's like nails on a chalkboard.
That sounds like fun though when she says it.
It is fun. And yeah, she's having fun.
Everyone else is just like, nails on a chalkboard.
Because I keep going straight to say birria tacos, but it close, but not close enough.
Close, yeah. So it's birria.
Birria. Okay, birria.
There you go.
Yeah,
got it.
Birria.
Yeah, don't be so hard on yourself, Nick.
I'm trying. So birria tacos, you said goat. Is it traditionally always meant to be made with goat? Like, that's where it
Such
originated?
A good question. Yeah. So yes, Jimmy has his company, Tromba. So it's like, it's a very terroir thing. So if you say tequila, it needs to be from Jalisco, made with Blue Weber. So goat or birria in Jalisco needs to be goat and made with pencas de maguey, or the agave leaves that come off the piña of the fruit goes for the tequila production, and then the leaves get used for cooking. So usually when you have a harvest, you cook birria. That's kind of a tradition in a lot of like mezcaleros, like mined in the canon of what is like tequila production and birria production. So it's like they go hand in hand.
That's it. That's I didn't know that at all. This is what this is what this podcast is all about. Trying to learn some new things. But when you're selecting the specific meat, that's just purely up to the individual, or
like the goat, or like when do you harvest, or what age do you harvest the goat, or
like what kind of but you were saying it is always goat.
Always goat.
Yeah.
No,
sorry.
I should say, like, Mexican food's very regional. So like if you go to Tijuana, a lot of the people that cook birria out there are from Jalisco.
Okay.
But that's a northern Mexican state. It's Tijuana, borders obviously San Diego and all that.
Yeah.
They're using beef just because that's what's available.
Right.
And then you get into like what really Mexican food is, and that parallel kind of streams across different cultures and countries. It's what you have. It's a lot of beautiful food and beautiful cultures are born of necessity.
Yeah.
So because the tradition is very strong, they immigrated to a different state. They use beef now, but the tradition's still the same. So it's just a word at a certain point.
Got it. Yeah, because I've only ever had it with beef in in the States. Well, actually, in general, I've never tried it with goat. I mean,
in LA.
Yeah.
What's your spot for birria? Teddy's Red.
I can't remember the places. Like, a buddy took me somewhere and was like, "Here, you have to try this." And
love it. It's a good friend.
But and I tried once to cook it myself at home, but it was I think the depth of flavor would be nowhere near probably what you're producing. I mean, I did mine in an Instapot as well. So,
I have a recipe.
Not quite. I will get that recipe.
I got you. I'm glad you attempted it though.
Yeah. And actually, I've still got like a liter of the sauce kind of frozen in the in the freezer. Just
there you go, ready
to come out again.
Round 2.
So you dropped out of culinary school for the second time.
That was in 2008. I dropped out the first time, and then 2010 I tried it again.
But your dad opened the restaurant in 2007.
Yeah, we opened it in 2007.
So when he was opening up this restaurant, what was kind of going through your mind? You were like, all right, it
was just a job for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was just kind of, I'm the oldest of 4, so it was always like kind of, in the Mexican culture, a lot of families are like the oldest helps out. It's like the third parent pretty much.
Yeah.
So that was what was in my mind. It was just like a good way to make some extra money while I'm in school and help out a little bit.
Got it.
Yeah. No end game over here. At that time, I didn't think about what it could have been or what it is.
And then you were saying in 2010 you went back to culinary school to give it another go. What do you think didn't keep you there? Like, was it because I guess everyone talks about culinary schools where you go to learn the techniques and all that kind of stuff, and then you apply that to wherever you kind of head afterwards. But what was it for you that just you just didn't want to stay?
Yeah, I think like what it was for me is like I didn't like the rigid aspect of school. It's just like constant like, and it's so funny because like going into culinary school is like you need some structure, or you need going into just regular work in the restaurant business. You need structure. So I was running away from something and running right into it again. But I think that was it for me. A lot of it was the culture in the school was very much of people, because I was paying for my own school, and a lot of the people there were like, at least in my class, were parents were paying for it and they weren't treating it seriously. And in my head, I was like, dude, if somebody's paying for me to go, so I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah.
But just that's my upbringing talking there. It was for sure maybe a little judgmental on my part, but that's the way I felt. I just felt like they weren't taking it seriously based on that they were given that by their parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you left, what was the plan?
No plan. So when I left culinary school in 2010, I was at a point with my family that I wasn't really on speaking terms with them, we can say.
Okay.
Yeah, family business, man. That's the reality of it. Sometimes it goes sideways. But I knew I wanted to kind of like, in my head, I knew I had a knack for cooking, but I wanted to get an education in some way. So that's why when I left culinary school the second time, I just entered like restaurants.
Yeah.
So I had a friend who was working at the Trump Tower of all places, and he was a sushi chef at this. I think the place was called Rebar. Very swanky, view of the river and stuff. And I was like, hey, I reached out. I was like, I really want a cook job. Do you have anything going? And he's like, I think we have like an overnight in-room dining position open. And I'm like, I'll take it. So
wow,
yeah, dude, it was. I mean,
That's where it all began.
It was rough, man. It's like unnatural to work like the third shift a lot of the time, but I did it for like 6 months.
Can you remember like any really wild orders that came in at like 4 a.m., anything like that?
No, it was pretty chill.
Okay.
Especially, it was surprising because of the location and the clientele that they attracted.
Yeah.
I did, it was my first time like cooking for like quote unquote celebrities or stuff, the servers would come back to the kitchen and be like, oh, this is for, I think Janet Jackson came through one time. Trump actually came in, and he loves burgers well done with just ketchup on them and a Diet Coke. So
right.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then I think Nick Offerman, if you know who that is,
yeah,
he came in with I can never pronounce his wife's last name. Is it Mullally? Megan Mullally?
Megan Mullally, yeah.
They were really nice. They were really sweet. Tipped well according to the servers, and ordered like normal human beings, not well done burgers with ketchup on them.
Yeah, right. So that was your introduction into the actual. I mean, apart from the like the family restaurant, which was up and running, but this is like when you kind of went off on your own and were like, okay, I'm getting into this seriously.
Yeah.
And what kind of led from there?
So, because it's hotel money and overnight positions get decent money, and I was at that point, I think I was like 19, about to be 20. I had, passive, the good income coming in, and I was like, it gave me the opportunity to go explore more independent restaurants, I should say. So, I was here working for this hotel and making decent money, but the chef was great. I just wasn't working directly with him.
Yeah.
Because I was working in-room dining overnights. And then my buddy Rob Levitt, who's just on the second season of The Bear, he gets a cameo and tells a very true story of his actual like cooking history on the show. I reached out to him when he had a place called Butcher in the Larder down in Milwaukee here. And reached out to him. I said, hey, I want to, do you have any contacts in restaurants? And I want to learn, I want to learn from a chef. I want to work for a chef. And he's like, yeah, my buddy Andrew is looking for cooks all the time. You can stage with him. I'll set up a stage. Andrew Zimmerman, he has a Sepia. It's a 1-star here.
Yeah.
So I staged for 2 days and fell in love. But they had like, the line at that point at the restaurant was like people that were going to go up and open Saison in San Francisco and, working for Wiley Dufresne in New York and stuff. And
wow.
I knew none of this back then. I was just so green. So I ended up staging for, I think it was like 3 weeks because I just loved the place. And again, I had just gotten off the Trump thing. So I had some money to work for free. But yeah, that was the one place I was just like fell in love with cooking. I just couldn't get enough of it.
So, staging for that long, and of course, if anyone doesn't know what staging is, it's when you're effectively going in to work for free.
You're working for free
in a restaurant, get the experience.
Yeah.
So doing it for 3 weeks, so is that considered like a long time?
That's a long time.
Got it.
But I just knew I had built a quick bond with the crew, and I was just telling Jimmy that we just came back from a trip with all my friends from that time of my life. Those cooks are now my best friends. I'm the godfather to one of the kids, and Carm, and they're like my brothers now. So that we just formed a bond back then that was like unbreakable.
And so when you got towards the end of your period there, what was kind of next? Like what were you thinking?
Yeah, so after Sepia, I had a period where I was like, I came back to the family restaurant for a bit. That's the luxury of the family restaurant, is I can always like kind of just, take a breath there and, still help out and push for that place. But at that point, I still had it in my head where I wanted to keep learning.
Yeah.
It just so happens that my first exec chef position was about to fall into my lap at 22 years old. And
that's young,
dude. Not way too young, man. And that's actually when I met Jimmy, your brother, at this place called Masa Azul.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, in Logan Square. And this is in 2012. I got the job, I think summer 2012. 22 years old, still very green. Wasn't really a chef, was barely a pro cook,
So I mean, that's a big responsibility. Mm-hmm. How did you go? Talk me through your process of actually, starting that gig and what it was like.
Yeah, I think I've always had this thing about me that I made things work for me as the best way I could, and because of we talked about good things coming of necessity. Mm-hmm. That was a small crew. It was only me and 2 line cooks, and I would get in early. I was the prep cook. Get the line set up for them, and the cooks would come in around like 3 p.m. Open was at 5. So between 5 and 7, right before the big, or 5 and 6:30 before the big rush, I would be downstairs on the computer just R&Ding for new dishes and stuff and ideas, and then pop back up, expo service, close down the kitchen, and keep doing the same thing. I was just at that point, I knew I needed to be educated. I knew in my head I wasn't ready to be a chef yet, but I knew I wanted to do a good job.
So how long? I mean, did that end well? Did it end poorly? What was the?
Oh, at Masa?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was there for 2 years.
Okay.
And the reason I left is because the owner hired a bartender that was fancied himself a mixologist. Okay. I mean, the guy stirring, a cocktail with his finger and thought it was cool, and
with his bare finger.
Yeah, I forget what the bartender's name. It was like After this, we'll look it up. But
Yeah.
it's a famous bartender would do it back in the day. And then he fancied himself on the level of this guy. And
Not really acceptable these days, especially in a post-COVID world.
At all.
Well, actually, yeah, even before.
Yeah, it was creepy. And he had all these like skull rings and stuff. But anyway, he was just a bad dude. And I just didn't like the culture that he brought in. So for me, it was like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I said, you know what? This isn't for me anymore. Like I'd pushed enough for this restaurant, and I think we lost sight of what the goal was. And this guy, and it was short-lived, of course. I told the owner too. I was like, dude, this isn't it. But yeah, like it gave me an opportunity to like keep growing. Yeah. That's the name of the game. So.
And what was next after that one?
Man, after that, I bounced around a lot. Because again, I was like, at that point, I wanted to open places and see what it was to like open places. So I stopped at Fat Rice for a cup of coffee. I was there for like 4 months, and kind of like learned Macau style food, and just like different flavors. And the chef there was really good at like, he's just a food genius. Gets a bad rap these days. He had a rough 2020, but yeah, I mean, as from a cook perspective, he's just like really good. Palate was really good. So I learned a lot from him in the short time I was covering for Chef de Cuisine. And then I opened up some like different places, like a hot fried chicken joint here. I worked in Dubai for a bit.
In Dubai?
Just for, I consulted out there, helped open it like out in Dubai. I guess the food truck cultures in the Emirates is very big because it's a very event based.
Yeah.
They bring their fleet of food trucks to different like events, golf outings and stuff. And I actually met the individual at the hot chicken place out here in Chicago, and he's like, yeah, we'll talk. And, of course, when anyone says that, you're like, you don't know when it's going to happen or if it's going to happen, but you try to put your best foot forward. And sure enough, he called me back and said, hey, we really liked your food. This is what we want to work on. So we're going to fly you out. You live here for like a month opening all these concepts. And I think I was like 26 at the time, 25 or 26. And I mean, constantly just like opportunities coming up that I might have worked for, but just right place, right time a lot of the time.
So in your time in Dubai, so you're literally opening up like multiple different food truck concepts, all based around different cuisines, essentially.
That's it. Yeah. So it was like the one that I was actually really working on that was like my baby was the hot fried chicken, and then the Mexican concept, obviously.
Okay.
Which is a trip because, Mexican food, lots of pork and all that stuff. So when you go cook in like an Emirate, pork is, if you go to a part of the grocery store, pork's in a different section almost.
Yeah.
So that was like a culture shock for me. It was all kind of surreal, just like being there. I couldn't believe it. We were the kitchen I was working in was in the Burj Khalifa.
Okay.
And so my commute to work was trippy, just like going in. I always felt like I was in Star Wars because a lot of the buildings look like insane. The architecture's insane. It was just trippy for sure.
I've got to before we move on too quickly with your fried chicken.
Yeah.
If you're willing to share, what's your number one kind of tip, trick, secret when it comes to fried chicken?
So that's the thing is like I'm pretty generous with my techniques just because. Well, we'll get into that in a bit. But here's the tip: is you need to dry brine the chicken with salt and pepper.
Dry brine, yep.
Okay. Overnight's ideal.
Yep.
Not too salty. And usually do like a 1 to 2% brine, we'll call it. So whatever the chicken weighs, you weigh the 1% of its weight in salt.
Yep.
And that's your brine
for
that piece of chicken. So that's one. Just season your chicken and then put it on a rack, wire rack in the fridge, and let it kind of dry out a bit. Because again, you want texture. That's one. 2 is the dredge and slurry method that I love. So what you do is you make a slurry. It's just seasoned flour, some spices, follow your heart with it, whatever you want to put in there. Dip it in the dredge or in the slurry, the wet batter, and then into the dredge, which is pretty much the same flour that you used in your slurry. Mm-hmm. And then let it, again, rest on a rack. So all that batter hydrates.
Yeah.
And what that means is when it goes into the oil, again, at room temperature, your chicken needs to stay because you don't want cold protein going into the fryer. You fry your chicken maybe 18 minutes at 350, bone-in piece.
There you go.
And that crispy chicken.
What's in what makes up your slurry?
So it's water, flour, Onion powder, garlic powder. You can put paprika in there. Ratios are up to you. Some salt, baking powder, just as a leavening, because you want some like lacy edges coming off of the chicken when they're frying. And that's pretty much it.
So no, I swear I've come across recipes that call for buttermilk, right?
Yeah, you could brine in buttermilk for sure. But
you could brine in that, but that wouldn't go into your slurry.
You could definitely do that for sure, and it'll provide more caramelization and a little bit more acid.
Yeah,
Definitely try it. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, we've ticked that box. Excellent. And of course, now I've lost our train of thought of where we're. So you were working. You're in Dubai.
Yeah.
And then take us from there.
So yeah, after Dubai happened, I kind of hopped around a lot, started consulting more, and then I started working with like bigger brands. Started reaching out because of social media and all that stuff. Did work with like Coca-Cola. I'd cooked the MLB All-Star game for them. One time I did a commercial for like Hennessy, and there's stuff that I was like, how is that even happening? Stuff that I never even thought about. Cause again, I came up as a cook, Southside kid from Chicago. But the thing about me is I try not to say no to things. I try to, again, make it work as best as it can for me. And make sure it fits like my ethos, and we'll call it whatever, like brand or something like that. But yeah, I was very fortunate working for big companies like that and working in restaurants and at that point. And then came back to the family restaurant in 2017.
Okay.
So from like 2014 to 2017, I just kind of hopped around and helped open concepts and learn. I came back to the family restaurant officially in 2017 and had a conversation with the old man and said, hey, look, like I'm getting texts saying, it's good today, it's so today. And that really kind of bothered me. And I told him, I said, hey, I want to, at this point I had opened up concepts and worked in Michelin starred restaurants and learned enough where I can systemize it and scale this thing for my family. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I did. Fought tooth and nail, of course, because family restaurants are nuts. But yeah, I, set up a system, because we only serve one dish there. It's the birria.
Oh, it's just the one dish.
One dish, man. One trick pony.
Wow.
So yeah, so if you're not like nailing it, like what the fuck are you guys doing? Sorry, can you swear?
Of course you can.
Okay, cool. Just one. I'll just drop one. I thought that was a solid one. I'll take that. But yeah, so yeah, I was like, that was really bothering me. And, it's something that was like just so inherently me was the recipe, because I was like the first employee at the restaurant. And, I think somewhere in the back of my brain, I always knew that I would have to come back in some capacity. And that might have been a motivator to get me to like kind of learn more and work around the industry. So I came back and I systemized it more, set up a POS system and food cost and all these things. And once I had that done, I was like, well, let's push it. Let's push. And dude, we got shortlisted for a James Beard Award in 2019 for service. Nice. Man, it's like that little, it's like the little engine that place, everything that we didn't think would happen happened there. So it was like really, really cool to see.
So, still serving just the one dish.
One dish. I would do pop-ups here and there, like in the own space after hours, just working on my own craft. But yeah.
So we're talking a lot of goats here, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like how many goats are you going through a week?
I think now they're going through, because now there's 2 locations.
Yeah.
So I think now between locations, I think they're doing like something like maybe 35 to 40 goats a week. Okay. Depending, it fluctuates depending on the season. But yeah, again, we have a goat purveyor by the name of Lalo Lage.
I was going to ask, where do they come from?
He comes, local. They're from Woodstock, Illinois. He has a farm out there. And of course, like you'll have to buy goats from other farmers, but he vets them very well. And they're halal, even though we do roast in lard, but they're raised really well. The feed's really good. Yeah. He makes their own feed. They're eating like alfalfa and sprouts and all this stuff. And the meat's beautiful. It's really good. And the cool part about it is that Lalo approached us at Zaragoza's maybe like in 2010, 2011, and was like kind of knocked on our back door saying, hey, I sell I sell goats, and we gave him a shot as he was a goat monger and would broker deals between farms and take them to market. And he didn't have a farm at this point, but now, 2023, I think he got his farm in 2019. He has a farm now, and he raises them himself. He raises beef, so we've grown together.
Good for him. He was like the in between goat man, the middleman for a bit there, and then kind of growing his own.
Yeah, but if he's not around, we're not in business, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah, he's just been a great partner.
Well, I mean, because I don't see goat that much. I mean, like if you're going to a butcher, I mean, especially out in California, like, you know, if you want goat, you're ordering that special in.
Special.
Like they'll have to find it.
Yeah.
And because the only thing that, I mean, I'm going to talk about lamb for a second, because I'm super biased when it comes to lamb, because like Australian lamb, New Zealand lamb is just
the best.
The best.
Yeah.
Compared to lamb that's raised here in the US.
Sure.
What about when it comes to goat?
Yeah.
You know, like is there different kind of standards when it comes to?
Yeah, I think like what happens is a lot of the time, like outside of the US, you know, I could travel to Mexico a lot, and I go to like these, you know, palenques, which are where the mezcal production is made and stuff, and they have animals and livestock there, and they're really not paying attention to the animals too much. But a lot of the times I've had birria or barbacoa in Mexico have been at these places, and I think like the meat there is so gamey. Speak of their upbringing, the goat, whatever, they're just eating kind of whatever.
Yeah,
they're not getting enough water or whatever it is. Our goats don't have that problem.
Yeah,
it's like the goats that we use, like the meat's super sweet and delicate, and when it's raw, you can see like the marbling in it and the integrity of the meat. It's just a good looking piece of meat, versus like stuff that's not domestic to the US. I haven't seen like great. I'm sure it's different in New Zealand and Australia, but these are some of the best goats I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk me through how the process of roasting the goat for the dish.
Yeah, for the birria, again, it's super simple. We used to butcher in house until we couldn't keep up with it, just based on like spatial constraints and stuff. So Lalo does it now. He's USDA. I mean, the guy's killing it. So he does it for us now. And so we basically take kosher salt on the meat, dry brine it. Again, big dry briner over here. And then you season that overnight, come in the next day and steam cook it in steam pots. You know, it's tough to replicate stuff in the States versus, you know, doing stuff in Mexico where it's like a wood burning oven. And I mean, we could do it here, but we just would have to build like a wood oven so big that it just wouldn't make sense. So we do it in a steam pot. Cook. That's the first cook. You cook it until tender. A
steam pot, like, is that cooked to pressure or?
Yeah, it's a giant pressure cooker, pretty much. Like it's a big, it's a stock pot. Like huge, like I could fit in it, like pretty much, and close the lid. So it has like a platform that's perforated, and then you put a little bit of water on. You have like 3 metal like cups in the middle of it. It's just to hold it up from the water, and then fill it up. The thicker cuts go at the bottom, so like the shank, and then like the ham and shoulder. Then you move up to the ribs, and then the belly. Yeah. You close the pot, and then you wrap it with saran wrap or plastic wrap, and that's like a form of a pressure cooker. And you put weights on there, and then you cook it for around 6 hours until it's tender. Immediately coming out of the pot, you marinate it in a red mole. So it's ancho chilies and spices. That's it. And then you roast it in lard until crispy, flipping halfway through. So it gets like, kind of has like a brisket look to it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to the red mole sauce, can you say mole sauce, by the way? Or is that like a super white guy thing to say? Is that like saying sauce?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Nailed it. I know. I'm embarrassed.
It's like
this is nice though.
But
I'm glad we did this
because my wife and I've stopped saying it now, and members of my family will still say it. It's like, can I have some naan bread, please? It's like saying
bread.
Yeah, I want bread.
Or chai tea.
Chai tea. Yeah, tea.
Yeah.
So the mole.
Mole.
Super regional, super like every family has their own recipe, that kind of thing.
Big time. Yeah, and it's a great comparison to compare like Indian cuisine to Mexican cuisine because it's very regional and it's like hyper regional to the point where neighbors door to door, same block are cooking the same quote unquote same dish way differently.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's well, not too differently because if you're living in the same city, you kind of have a general same vibe to it. But yeah, our mole, if you presented it as a mole, people would be like, "This is not even close to it." You would call it an adobo, but which is just a marinade. So when you think about mole, at least like in the States, you think of like a dark, chocolatey almost sauce, whereas like there's 7 mother moles. But from there, you have like little derivations from that main mother mole. Right?
Yeah.
So ours red, we call it rojo because it is red. Nothing gets toasted in it other than the sesame seed. So the peppers are untoasted. They just get steeped in water.
Oh, okay.
So what you get is like an acidity from them and like the tannic quality from it. If you like wine, you get like the kind of like jowl grabbing.
Yeah. Like kind of salad. Yeah. Like, yeah.
Super umami. Mm-hmm. And that's what you want because what happens is when you roast it in lard, all those spices and the chilies get activated and then they get like that lacy kind of like texture adheres to the meat. So,
yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. Starting to get very, very hungry.
Dude, I'm saying we just had some tacos too and I'm just like, I can talk about food forever.
Well, now that, I thought we have to cover some bits about Chicago.
Yeah.
Which I thought would be a bit of fun because, and actually before we get to that, and you mentioned it earlier, and I'm here in Chicago talking to a chef, we have to talk about the bear.
Yeah.
How has it been received in the restaurant community in the city where it's set?
I think it's been received very well.
Okay.
Maddie comes into the restaurant. Maddie Matheson comes in. Courtney Storer, who is Christopher Storer, the creator's sister and culinary director for the show.
Yeah.
So they've been supporting the restaurant a bunch. I love watching movies and shows, and I'm very critical of them. I was joking with Jimmy. It's like if you've ever seen Chicago Fire or Chicago PD, I feel like the show's like Chicago Kitchen, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like fun, right? Like it's like they embellish, of course, because otherwise there's no it's entertainment. I think they get some good things right about the show for sure. But yeah, some people are like, "Oh, this gives me PTSD," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's just a show. You can shut it off if you want." But I think, look, I'm a Chicago kid, born and raised. Anytime my city gets mentioned or kind of like showcased, I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Chicagoans, and I'm a part of this. We have this. We can talk shit about our own city, but if at the moment anyone else starts doing it, well, like we all unite. Like it's like, no, you can't talk about our city. It's like us. So I think like as a Chicagoan, like I'm so proud of it. It's like we like approach our city with such love and like admiration, but like we're the first to criticize it. And what the Bear has done is like given us something to, keep doing what we've been doing for forever. And it's talking about it.
I love it. It's funny because before the Bear came out, so how the Dish Pig got its name was because I worked as a dish pig in my stepbrother's restaurant back in Melbourne, back in the day.
And dish pig is what position?
That's the dishwasher.
Yeah, I love the name though.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. Apparently, like some dish pigs, like they don't call it a dish pig because they find it to be a bit offensive. But
no,
I don't see that. A bit too soft.
Soft.
But from working in that kitchen, ever since leaving, when I was in my home kitchen and I was there with someone else, and like now with the wife, I'm always like behind, like I'm just yelling that.
And you worked in the kitchen for how long?
I was there for maybe 2-3 years.
And it's
2-3 years in like the restaurant, but in the kitchen itself, probably like about a year.
Yeah. But don't you find that it's like the style of communication that's used in the kitchen is effective still, like in normal day life?
It's incredibly effective,
right?
But after that, every time I would yell behind, they're like, what the fuck are you like? Why are you yelling at me? It's like I'm telling you I'm holding a pot. I'm behind you. And anyway, like I'm having fun with it. They have no idea what I'm doing. And then the Bear comes out, and everyone's yelling behind. Then they think I've taken it from the Bear, and it's like, yes, chef.
Yeah.
Actually, my stepbrother texted me a funny story about Chef the other day, but it's not suitable for this podcast. It was someone left some something filthy in the back alleyway of one of their restaurants, and someone had to move it, and they were like, "Yes, chef." I'll just leave it at that.
Oh my God.
But all right, so positive overall then, which is good.
Yeah, no, for the bear.
Yeah,
man. Like, they come into the restaurant and it's like it's a caricaturization of Chicagoans and what everyone thinks Chicago is, which is the beef and and the accent and all this stuff. But regardless of what it is, Chicago's on the main stage.
Yeah.
So it's like that's a win. We're in the conversation. Yeah, we're not playing second fiddle to these other cities. I think Chicago is such a beautiful city. And, like, here's an example of, like, Chicagoans not really understanding what it means to have, like, something. So the NASCAR thing came to the city this year.
Okay.
We had NASCAR in the city. They never raced because it rained the day of the race. But everyone's saying how, and it is annoying, objectively annoying that there's traffic and all this other shit. But here's the thing, is like you get all the NASCAR crowd, they're historically from like red states and shit.
Yeah.
So I think like having them here and seeing how close they are they're racing inside of our city. So the track was like down like Michigan Avenue, Lakeshore Drive or something. So you're like looking up and you can see the skyscrapers. That in and of itself is dope. It's amazing. Yeah. 2, you walk 3 blocks into the city and you're at some of the best restaurants that they've probably ever seen. So instead of reading about what Chicago is and all the shootings and stuff in the news, they're experiencing what Chicago is firsthand. And I thought that was like very amazing to get a different type of demographic in here.
Yeah.
And kind of showcase the city. So I think the Bears on that level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
that's
definitely
the way I view it.
Well, it's a good spot to segue into with your favorite spots in the city. Mm-hmm. So with the Bear being like the hot Italian sandwich, at least in season 1.
Yeah.
What's your go-to hot Italian sandwich in the city?
Love this question. There's 2 answers for me.
Okay.
One is because it's nostalgia, and it was like a block away from my childhood home, and it's called Tony's Beef. Tony's Italian Beef. It's on 70th and Pulaski.
Okay.
And, I would go there, we'd split a beef, and then we'd get a pizza puff, if you know what a pizza puff is.
I gather what a pizza puff is, but it's...
Yeah, context clues.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's deep fried, filled with pizza-like filling.
Pizza-like filling.
Yeah. They can't call it pizza legally because it's like, I don't know, like a molecule away from like space grade polymers, I think.
Like those shitty pizza pocket things you get, like the frozen ones. Did you have them here as a kid?
Yeah. Well, don't go busting rank on pizza puffs though, man. It's very similar, but nothing like it, man.
Not implying that whatsoever.
Yeah. So that's my nostalgia one, and then Johnny's Beef for me, which I think is where the direction your Uber was taking you in earlier.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Johnny's Beef is that's on the west side.
West, yeah, like just out. It's on North Ave, just outside the city.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Then what about let's just say your top 3, excluding your own establishments, but top 3 restaurants, and you can split them into like your cheap eats, your fast eats, to institutions, to fine dining.
Love that. Top 3. So. I think 3 of them, all 3 have been like dates my girlfriend and I have remembered. One of them was our first date, which is
so sweet.
I know. It's La Chaparrita. I took her to my favorite taco place. It's on 25th and Whipple.
Okay.
It's in the hood. It's not too far where I grew up from, and they just do Mexico City style tacos, and it's really, really great. Like the guy has meat swimming in the queso, which is like lard, and all the like the suadero, which is like the beef navel, just cooked beautifully, longaniza, really, really good. So La Chaparrita, that's my one. It's a cheap-ish eat.
Yeah.
But I'd pay a lot of money for those tacos. That good. 2, this is in no particular order, by the way, because I love them all. But 2, I really like Southeast Asian style flavors. Like they just hit home for me. Like spicy, sour, sweet, all that. We were just there last night. It's called J Day Thai.
Okay.
JJ Thai Street Food. It's on Chicago off of Ashland, just west of Ashland. And they have like this Isan sausage, which is like a fermented pork sausage with like rice in there. And those things, I can get like 24 of them and just sit down on the couch and watch like a football game or whatever.
How big are they?
They're a one biter.
Okay. Oh, so like sausage and then cut into. Okay.
Yeah, but they're like the sausage piece is like
like the size of a quarter or something, like a coin,
a little bit like a silver dollar. Right?
Yeah.
So that JJ Thai, they just do really, really great food, and I like going to eat there. Yesterday I was like complaining because it was 1,000,000 degrees out, and I was like, I know it's gonna be hot in there, but I actually felt like I was in Thailand, like on the street, so it was amazing. So that's JJ Thai, and then we'll go fancy this one. This is I have two. Lula Cafe, classic Chicago place, been around since '99. It's an institution and a beacon of hospitality in the city. Love them. And then this other place is a 2-star Michelin, run by Noah Sandoval. It's called Oriole. For a 2-star, like you don't leave there leaving like hungry.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is great. And then also speaking to the Michelin starred stuff, the service there doesn't feel stuffy.
Yeah.
It feels like it's more of a hospitality there, thoughtful hospitality.
Yeah.
And they read the room really well. If you're having a good time, they're not going to be like performing and like shoving information down your throat.
Yeah.
Which is not really my bag when I go out to eat. So those are my spots.
What about places to drink?
Good bars. Let's see. You know, that's the thing. It's like Chicago's the home of the dive bar.
Yeah. I love the Chip In. I'm a big fan of the Chip In.
There you go. Yeah. Look, there's a place on the south side that I used to go to like as a young kid. It's called Conrad's.
Okay.
You have to hit a buzzer to go in. And they still allow smoking in this place. And it's so funny because like sometimes if they don't like the looks of you or you look hammered, they won't even open the door. And I've been on the receiving end of that. And I've been let in more times than I've been let out. So that's one of my favorite spots. I just like, it was like my old stomping ground. So Conrad's on South Pulaski is great. And then as far as like a good cocktail, you know, Sportsman's Club is, I really like it there.
This place is familiar. I think I've been there.
Jimmy's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a little backyard situation.
Yeah, it rings a bell.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good one because it's like great cocktails, but it still gives me like the dive bar feel. So
got it.
Yeah.
And then looking forward, what's kind of on the horizon for the restaurant moving forward? Like, what do you?
Yeah. So I like personally, I opened a spot at Soho House. It's called Kali. Opened it in May, so that's my project for the year.
Yeah.
Food's really great. Team's good. So working on that. I'll be opening my ghost kitchen concept in DC. It's called El Oso, which is the bear in Spanish. That was before the show.
Okay.
A nickname of mine as a kid. So yeah, opening that up in DC hopefully this fall, and then which will take me away from the family restaurant eventually.
Yeah.
It's in my brother's running it right now, so it's in good hands.
Okay.
Yeah. Eventually, I'll make an official departure from the family restaurant just to pursue my own stuff.
Yeah.
And eventually, I want to have like a brick and mortar, hopefully within the next 1.5 years out here.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love
it's time, man.
That's it. But the confidence in the way you speak, it's like you know exactly what's going to happen and how you're going to do it. It's like
confidence is a general term. I think it's like it's yeah. I don't know. It's like reckless abandon. Sometimes you just got to run into it, man. Yeah.
Well, Jonathan, thank you for sitting down with me and sharing some tales about your city and about your past, and look forward to seeing what's coming down the line.
Appreciate it, Nick. Thanks, man.
Thanks,
Congrats on the podcast. It's fun.
Cheers, bro.
Thanks, dude.